The room went silent the moment the glass tilted. Dark red wine cascaded down his face, soaking his suit, dripping slowly onto the polished marble floor like something far heavier than a drink, like humiliation itself. No one moved. No one spoke. Because everyone in that room knew one thing. This man wasn't supposed to matter, and yet, in less than 24 hours, everything they believed about him would shatter. Before we go deeper, tell me, where are you watching Secret Tales from today? Drop your city in the comments. And if you love powerful stories of betrayal, revenge, and shocking twists like this, make sure you subscribe, because this one, it's only just beginning. His name was Ethan Cole. To the people in that room, Ethan was invisible. A quiet, reserved man in his mid-30s, always dressed neatly, but never impressively. He wasn't loud. He wasn't flashy. He didn't command attention. He simply existed, which made what just happened even more shocking. Because the woman who poured wine on him was his wife, Vanessa Cole, and she didn't look sorry, not even a little. Maybe next time, Vanessa said, her voice smooth, but sharp enough to cut glass. You'll remember your place. A few nervous chuckles echoed across the room. Executives, investors, board members, people who mattered, people who believed Ethan didn't. He stood still, eyes closed, wine dripping from his chin, his fists clenched at his sides, not in anger, but restraint, because Ethan had learned something long ago. The more powerful you truly are, the less you need to prove it. But tonight was testing that belief. The setting was the headquarters of Future Innovations Group, one of the fastest growing tech conglomerates in the world. Glass walls, digital screens, a skyline view worth millions, and tonight they were finalizing a $300 million deal, a deal Vanessa had been fighting for months to secure, a deal that would elevate her from senior executive to industry legend. And Ethan, he was just the husband who showed up uninvited. Security should have stopped him, one man whispered behind a tablet. He's probably here for the free drinks, another muttered. Ethan heard everything. He always did. But he never reacted. Not when they mocked his silence. Not when they dismissed his presence. And certainly not when his own wife treated him like a stranger. But what none of them knew, not Vanessa, not the board, not even the CEO sitting at the head of the table, was that Ethan Cole wasn't just some quiet nobody. He wasn't just Vanessa's husband. He wasn't even just an employee. Ethan Cole owned everything. 3 years earlier, Ethan had inherited a silent empire, not through luck, not through family wealth, but through something far more complicated. A man named Leonard Graves, the reclusive founder of Future Innovations, had passed away without public heirs. What the world didn't know was that Leonard had spent years mentoring someone in secret, someone he believed had the mind to carry his legacy forward, someone who didn't chase power, but understood it. That person was Ethan. Ethan had met Leonard by accident, a chance conversation in a quiet bookstore cafe. Leonard had seen something rare in him, not ambition, not greed, but clarity. And over time, that quiet mentorship turned into something deeper, a bond, a trust, until one day, Leonard handed him everything. But there was a condition. Ethan would remain hidden. No announcements, no public reveal, no board interference. He would observe, learn, understand the company from the inside before ever claiming his place at the top. So Ethan did exactly that. He joined the company under a low-level identity. No one knew who he really was, not even the executives, not even Vanessa. And that's where everything started to go wrong, because somewhere along the way, Vanessa stopped seeing him as a partner and started seeing him as a burden. "You're too comfortable being small," she told him one night, months before the incident. They were sitting in their luxury apartment. Well, her luxury apartment, everything in that home was in her name. Her success, her status, her world. "You have no ambition, Ethan," she continued. "No drive, no vision. I'm building something big, and you're just watching life pass you by." Ethan had looked at her quietly, not offended, not angry, just thoughtful. Because the truth, he was watching, but not life. Her. He saw how she changed, how power shifted her tone, how success sharpened her words, how respect turned into control, and how love slowly, quietly, disappeared. Back in the present, the wine had stopped dripping, but the silence hadn't. Vanessa placed the empty glass on the table completely unfazed. "Can we proceed?" she said, turning toward the investors. As I was explaining, the 300 million expansion will position us ahead of every competitor in the next 5 years. The room quickly refocused, because money always speaks louder than humiliation. Ethan reached for a napkin, dabbed his face slowly, then his suit, still calm, still silent. But something had shifted, something small, something invisible, but something real. Across the room, a man had been watching everything carefully. Marcus Hale, the company's chief legal officer, one of the few people who had direct contact with Leonard Graves before his death, one of the few who knew there was a hidden successor. But even Marcus didn't know who it was until tonight, because when Ethan lifted his head, their eyes met, and in that moment, Marcus froze. It wasn't just recognition. It was realization, a quiet, terrifying understanding that hit him all at once. The posture, the calm, the eyes. Marcus had seen them before, in private meetings, in shadowed conversations, in the presence of Leonard Graves himself. And suddenly, the pieces fell into place. Marcus stood up slowly. "Excuse me," he said, interrupting Vanessa mid-sentence. She frowned. "I'm in the middle of—" "This can't wait." His tone had changed. Urgent. Serious. Different. The room shifted again. Attention turning. Confusion building. Marcus walked directly toward Ethan, each step deliberate, measured, heavy, with something no one else yet understood. Vanessa laughed softly. "Oh, please, Marcus, don't tell me you're about to defend him." Marcus didn't respond. He stopped just inches from Ethan, looked at him closely, then slightly bowed his head, a small gesture, almost unnoticeable, but powerful. "Sir," Marcus said quietly. The word hit the room like a shock wave. Vanessa blinked. "Sir?" she repeated, confused. "What are you doing?" Ethan didn't answer immediately. He adjusted his cuff, straightened his jacket, still stained with wine, then finally looked up, not at Vanessa, not at the board, but at Marcus. And for the first time that night, Ethan spoke, Not yet. Marcus hesitated, then nodded. I understand. But it was too late, because the room had already changed. People were watching now, really watching, seeing something they had ignored before. The composure, the authority, the quiet control. Vanessa's expression hardened. What exactly is going on? No one answered her, because in that moment, for the first time, the invisible man in the room was no longer invisible. And just as the tension reached its peak, a voice echoed from the glass doors behind them. Apologies for the delay. Everyone turned. The CEO of Future Innovations walked in, flanked by two assistants, holding a sealed folder. He stepped forward, scanning the room, then stopped, eyes landing directly on Ethan. And then something no one expected happened. The CEO smiled, not politely, not professionally, but respectfully. Good, he said. You're already here. Vanessa frowned. I don't unhear. But the CEO raised a hand, cutting her off. Then he walked straight past her, straight past the board, straight past the investors, and stopped in front of Ethan. The room held its breath, because what he did next would change everything. He extended the folder toward Ethan. This requires your signature, he said. Vanessa's voice cracked. His signature? The CEO nodded, calm, certain, unshaken. Yes, he said, then paused. After all, it's your company. And in that exact moment, the world Vanessa built collapsed. The silence didn't just linger. It crushed the room. Vanessa blinked once, then twice, like her mind refused to process what she had just heard. What did you just say? She asked, her voice no longer sharp, but uncertain. The CEO didn't look at her, didn't acknowledge her. His eyes remained fixed on Ethan, respectfully, patiently, waiting. Ethan stared at the folder in his hand. For a moment, he said nothing. No dramatic reaction, no sudden speech, just that same quiet presence he had always carried. But now, everyone was finally paying attention. The executives who had mocked him minutes ago, now frozen. The investors who dismissed him, now leaning forward, trying to understand, trying to recalculate everything they thought they knew. Vanessa let out a dry laugh. This isn't funny, she said, shaking her head. If this is some kind of joke, it's in very poor taste. Still, no one laughed with her. Marcus stepped forward slightly. Ma'am, it's not a joke. She turned to him sharply. What are you talking about? You just called him sir. Yes, Marcus replied calmly, and I should have done it much sooner. That's when it hit her. Not fully, but enough to shake something loose. She looked back at Ethan, really looked this time, and for the first time in years, she saw something she had ignored. Confidence, not loud, not flashy, but unshakable. Ethan finally opened the folder, flipped through the pages. His expression didn't change, but the room did, because every movement he made now felt different. What is this? Vanessa asked, her voice barely steady. The CEO answered this time. The final authorization for the $300 million expansion deal. She frowned. Yes, I know that. I've been leading it for months. Yes, the CEO said. You've been working on it. He paused. But you don't own it. Her breath caught. Ethan closed the folder gently, then looked up, first at Marcus, then at the CEO, and finally at Vanessa. And when their eyes met, there was no anger, no hatred, no revenge, just truth. You always said I had no ambition, Ethan said quietly. The room leaned in. You said I was comfortable being small. Vanessa's lips parted, but no words came out. I wasn't small, he continued. I was patient. Every word landed. I wanted to understand the company before leading it. I wanted to see what it had become and who people became when power was within reach. He paused. And now I know. Vanessa took a step back. Ethan, what are you saying? But deep down, she already knew. Marcus spoke again. 3 years ago, Mr. Leonard Graves transferred full ownership of future innovations to Ethan Cole. Gasps filled the room, soft, sharp, uncontrolled. The decision was legally binding, privately executed, and strategically concealed. Marcus continued. Only a select few of us were aware that a successor existed. He looked at Ethan, but we didn't know who until now. Vanessa shook her head slowly. No, that's not possible. Her voice cracked. I've been here for years. I built my position. You earned your position, Ethan said calmly, but not the company. That hit harder than the wine ever could. The room had completely shifted now. People who once ignored him now watched him like everything depended on his next move. Because it did. The CEO straightened slightly. Sir, the deal is ready. We only need your approval. Ethan looked down at the folder again, then slowly closed it. I'm not signing it. The room erupted. What? One investor shouted. This deal is critical. You can't just walk away from $300 million. Vanessa stepped forward quickly. You don't understand. This deal is everything. It secures our future, our market dominance. Ethan raised a hand, and the room silenced instantly. I understand the deal perfectly, he said. I've reviewed every version of it. He turned slightly, looking at the large screen behind them. Graphs, numbers, projections. It's aggressive, risk-heavy, built for speed, not stability. He looked back at Vanessa. You weren't building the future. He paused. You were chasing recognition. Her face flushed. That's not true, isn't it? The question hung in the air, unanswered. Ethan took a step forward, no longer the man standing in the background, now the center of everything. I watched how decisions were made. I watched how people were treated. I watched how success changed priorities. His gaze hardened slightly, and I watched how respect disappeared the moment someone thought they were above others. Vanessa's eyes filled with something unfamiliar, not anger, not pride, something closer to fear. You embarrassed me, she said suddenly, her voice breaking. The words surprised even her. Ethan didn't react. I worked hard to build my image, she continued, to be taken seriously, and you, she gestured at him. You just stood there, quiet, passive, doing nothing. Ethan tilted his head slightly. I was doing something. What? Learning who you became when you thought I was nothing. That broke something. Deep. The room watched as Vanessa's confidence crumbled. The CEO cleared his throat carefully. Sir, what would you like to do about the deal? Ethan didn't answer immediately. He looked around the room, at every face, every reaction, every shift in loyalty. Then he said, we restructure it. Confusion spread again. Reduce the risk exposure. Prioritize long-term growth. And remove any clauses that compromise employee stability. One investor scoffed. That's not how you win in this industry. Ethan looked at him, calm, direct. That's how you build something that lasts. No one argued again. Then Ethan turned back to Vanessa, and this moment felt heavier than everything before it. "Vanessa," he said quietly. She looked at him, barely holding herself together. "You're talented," he continued. "Driven, smart." A pause, but you lost something along the way. Tears finally welled in her eyes. "I'm removing you from the deal." The words dropped like a final verdict. Her breath hitched. "No, Ethan, please." "This isn't punishment," he said. "It's consequence." The difference hurt more. "You forgot what it means to lead," he added. "And until you remember, you won't represent this company." Silence. Deep. Finale. Vanessa stepped back slowly, like the ground beneath her had disappeared. Everything she built, her image, her power, her control, gone in seconds, and the man she once dismissed now stood above everyone. Not because he demanded it, but because he never needed to. Ethan turned back to the CEO. "Prepare the revised agreement." "Yes, sir." "And Marcus." "Yes." "Schedule a full internal review. I want to understand every department personally." Marcus nodded. "Of course." Ethan took one last look around the room, then began to walk away. But just before he reached the door, Vanessa's voice stopped him. "Ethan," he paused. "Didn't turn around." "I didn't know," she whispered. A long silence followed. Then he answered, quietly, firmly, and without turning back. "You didn't try to." And with that, he walked out, leaving behind a room full of stunned faces, a collapsed empire of ego, and a woman forced to face the truth she had ignored. Because sometimes the greatest power isn't in being seen. It's in choosing when to reveal yourself. If this story hit you, drop a comment with your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe to Secret Tales for more powerful stories like this.